Hi, what you're about to see is an interview with a vendor in the space in and around data mesh. We'd like to thank Nick Heudecker for graciously doing these interviews with vendors. We'd also like to make it clear that the data mesh community and data mesh learning doesn't necessarily endorse anything that these vendors are talking about, but that we wanted to give them a voice to talk about what they may offer in the space, so people are aware of vendors, because obviously if everybody has to build everything themselves, the data mesh is going to be pretty hard. So with that, we really thank Nick for doing this great work, and we hope that this is good and useful to you.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Data Mesh Learning Vendor Interviews. My name is Nick Heudecker, former industry analyst and currently Senior Director of Market Strategy at Cribl. If you want to know more about Cribl, you can click on either of these links or you can find us online. And today I'm joined by Yuliia from Masthead Data. Yuliia, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Nick. It's a great pleasure being here, and thank you for hosting me.
Happy to have you. So I've looked into Masthead Data a little bit, but maybe you can give us kind of the origin story for why now? Why a data quality startup at this point?
Okay. Yeah, so it's a really good question. So I'm Yuliia. I'm co-founder of Masthead Data, and we play in data management space. And so what we do, we help businesses to prevent costly decisions by catching data errors in real time. And why now? I mean, during our prep session, you mentioned that there are lots of tools like you, literally, there are, dozens of them. And that is true. And I should say, bad data, inaccurate data has a huge impact. It's a huge problem, literally for every business, no matter the size. But there is one more trend, is data privacy. And what is different about Masthead? We are the only one solution on the market that doesn't query clients' data. We do not touch clients' data. So we ensure data accuracy in a way that doesn't require our customers and users to downgrade their security standards.
So how do you do, there's clearly a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But how can you do data quality without looking at the data itself? There's only so far you can go with metadata, right?
So in fact, there are lots of things we can do. So what we do exactly, we ingest cloud native logs, metadata, and we also parse every single query happening inside the client data warehouse. First of all, let's break it down. Freshness is one of the important metrics in terms of data quality. So we observe every single table and understand how recent is the data in it and what are the patterns of update, as well as the volume of data received. Like either too much or too little data, we obviously can unfold that through the logs. And on top of that, we can catch any schema changes, any unauthorized schema changes that are happening upstream. We are able to pick up that as well. On top of that, we have we catch anomalies connected to deleted tables, and it's still happening. And as classy observability tool like New Relic or Datadog, we catch any other anomalies in client's cloud that affect data quality. So those are any other errors, and that could be anything from division by zero to syntaxis error or billing disabled. So this is like 5 things we are monitoring every single entity or table inside the client data warehouse.
Interesting. So I did want to go back a little bit if we can. So when was the company founded, and how many people are in the company today?
So the idea, we had this idea around end of 2021, beginning 2022. Officially, we incorporated company in March 22, and we launched beta, first version, at the beginning of June 22. So right now, it was kind of like, this is all tied to our experience and expertise. So I get that's why it was that fast, but right now it's 5 people working on it, 4 full-time and 1 person part-time.
So as far as Masthead in the data mesh space, right? Because that's what we're here to talk about. What makes Masthead unique? I mean, other than being able to infer quite a bit of data quality from metadata, where do you see a data quality tool fitting in a data mesh conversation?
That's a good question. So one of the pillars of data mesh is domain and domain owners. And with this, distributed domains, having data quality in place is such a great benefit, because I don't believe that market going to be that mature that every data product going to have a really mature data engineer within it. So having data quality that assures the highest quality of data for every data product is beneficial. And obviously we leverage that. We empower that because Masthead doesn't require manual setup. It just takes 2 clicks to set up. It's up and running, and it ensures high quality data at scale in every product data product used within the company. And we help to resolve issues faster, since we help to collaborate to data users, data consumers. We integrate with Slack and Jira, and we ensure this shared understanding on how the data should look like in every data product, and kind of build this knowledge base for data engineers and data consumers. Yeah.
You're building this knowledge base over time based on all this, how people are interacting with data, how it's getting created, the frequency of updates, things like that. And so I think there's a lot you can do with that, but are there trade-offs fundamentally in what kind of quality checks you can actually do, right? Because like you talk to somebody about data quality, and they're either thinking about technical data quality, or they're thinking about, is this accurate to the business, right? Does this data actually mean something that is useful for someone? So what are the trade-offs with the Masthead approach? And are you more focused? It sounds like you're more focused on the technical data quality than more business accuracy.
This is a really good question. So what is important about us? Like, this is important to understand how we operate. Every single solution on the market in data observability space is a SQL first solution. It means that every solution would need to have access to client's data to query it and to read it. Masthead doesn't need those rights and permissions. Masthead observes only cloud logs and metadata, and we're able to catch freshness, volume, schema changes, deleted tables, and any other errors happening within the client's data warehouse and cloud. What we cannot do, we cannot assess the value in fields. We cannot know what is the distribution of nulls, what is the maximum, minimum values, like things around that nature. But what I found out when I was, assessing the market opportunity and what the users are looking for, is that data engineers or data professionals were not waiting for any solution to come in and help them to control, really crucial data. For instance, unique values in, like user IDs or something. They were powering that through cloud functions, through pandas, lots of tools internally. And having any other tool come in and saying, listen, we can't help you assess that, they cannot do that automatically. They would need data engineers to insert SQL query eventually, because data engineers know how to assess this in-field values. And they would need to, write those SQL queries. They would need to understand what checks should be implemented within those tools. And I don't believe that any data engineer will have that implemented for every single column in every single table. It's not just happening. It's not how it's supposed to work. And saying this, I'm trying to say that this access rights to clients' data create more liability than benefits, because eventually this feature on assessing in-field level values is more like a nice to have feature than must have feature, because observing every table at scale is hard, but observing in field levels is something data engineers been doing for years so far. If that makes sense.
It does, but it's hard to kind of, because so much of data quality has gone like in the direction that you're describing as unsustainable, and maybe that's why data quality is still really terrible, because it's like it's impossible to actually deliver on what that promise is. But the way that you're describing data quality, I mean, this almost sounds like there's like an adjacency here around governance as well. Like, could this be a data governance tool if you were to look at it just right?
So in fact, we also have this layer of feature, not layer, but we have this features data lineage and data dictionary that actually shows what are the implications of anomalies on downstream and upstreams and things of that nature. So we're still looking for that product market fit, but I love how one of our customers described what we do. And it was literally so good. He told me, Yuliia, you act as an X-ray to us, because you pick up the things in a single place that all those tools, you can have the dbt pipelines and you will have some errors there, but you can also have Airflow that will produce its own errors, catch its own errors. So in Masthead, they have all that consolidated in a single place that send these alerts in real time, because again, we operate on logs and we're triggered by logs, meaning we are able to notify data engineers in real time. And he was like, literally, you helped us to improve our data environment that actually improved our data quality in the end of the day. And they just achieved that in 2 months.
It's a really quick turnaround. That's a really fast turnaround.
Yeah, it was impressive. It was impressive for me too, but they really worked with it too, like daily. So this is, the big piece of success, I should say.
No, congratulations. So you've had product for a little while, right? We've talked about the data dictionary, the lineage, perhaps there's a governance story there. We talked about the quality aspect of it, which I think is really, it turns things on its head quite a bit. I think in a traditional data quality story, which is pretty cool. We touched briefly on integrations. So we should talk about where does this work, right? You mentioned clouds, you're pulling in data from cloud logs and things like that. So today, what integrations are available? Where does this live?
So yeah, it's also worth highlighting that because of our architecture, unique architecture, we need to couple down with the cloud logs and data warehouse logs. And obviously it's not that easy as updating SQL query dialect. We need, to learn how to unparse it and unfold and how to read that effectively. So today we're available only for Google Cloud users, and we integrate with Jira, Slack, and Looker's coming soon. So as of today, this is the tools we integrate with.
Okay. And then so Jira and Slack would be for notifications.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So the Slack works whenever the issue happens. Masthead pick up that from the logs and send it over to data engineers Slack. It's seamless integration, literally. And Jira is used to collaborate with other teams. And we find it so helpful because there are a bunch of errors that are created not by data engineering team, but, upstream teams that create output for data engineers. And literally, it sits so much within data mesh approach, where everyone is responsible for their piece of work, everybody is responsible for their data, and you should take care of your data and its quality. So they can send it back to team that create this data output with any anomaly they created. And it just take one click we would, fill out all the description, links, visuals, and they just send it over to the team responsible. And at Masthead, we will have this ticket number and status like on the progress. So everybody could be, kind of updated on how the things are working on this ticket and this problem, data problem.
And that is surfaced in the Masthead user experience?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So in a ticket, you're going to see Jira number of Jira ticket and its status as well.
Okay. And then for the Looker integration, what's the goal of that integration? That's
a good question. So effectively today, we are able to pick up Looker errors as well with derivative tables. I just, what was that word? It's not kind of temporary tables that Looker creates within the Google BigQuery. And so we already pick up some of those, but we would need to build this, let's say, end-to-end observability, how the data, like when the data enters the client's data warehouse and when it meets the data consumer, so effectively in Looker dashboards. So the idea is to help data engineers to understand how every anomaly in every table affects data consumers and what data consumers it affects. So this is why we're building this integration and why it's requested from our users and customers.
Interesting. So you launched your beta product in, I think you said June of this year?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And so you also mentioned that you're still looking for kind of product market fit right now, but it sounds like you've found some audiences that are interested in, in going down this direction. So, I mean, what's the trigger for, hey, I'm Yuliia from Masthead. I want to show you my data quality product or our data quality product. Is there a certain pain point? Is there a certain company size, a company in transition? Like, what is the factor that pushes a company to engage with your data quality idea?
So first of all, so far I didn't meet any data engineer who would claim they don't have any data quality issues.
Right. Literally.
It's like, it's a problem of every company, no matter the size, as I mentioned earlier. Talking about today's good traction we have with the companies, and those companies, from depends on their size. It could be 30 employees, it could be 200 employees, it could be 6,000 employees, on high end. But what is in common? All of those companies want to become data driven. They want to put data in act. They want to, kind of return on investments. Those companies, invested in data teams, tools, infrastructure. They're looking to put data into the action. And what is also interesting, although those companies are remote first, they have distributed teams. Mm-hmm. And they basically need a tool which help them to collaborate and understand, build this shared of an understanding of what is happening inside their data environment overall. So I should say this is very much in common what we see in our users and customers.
So a way for these companies to kind of take like almost tribal knowledge within individual groups working remotely and share that in some way that can be then surfaced.
Yeah, it's like this. And there is one more thing which is important to understand about data engineers. Not all data engineers are working on their, kind of areas. Let's say they're responsible for the, sources from internal teams. The other data engineers is responsible for sources from external teams, and so on and so forth. And they won't have, oftentimes they don't have this shared understanding on how the data should look like. And I literally saw screenshots when data team, discussed the findings that Mass had made, like 30 messages in Slack. They were trying to figure out if that is okay. Literally, this is how much time it takes. And certainly Masthead helps to build this shared understanding of data, what the data should look like, even for them internally within the data engineering team.
No, that's cool. So we talked about, some of what are the pain points? Are there specific customer stories you wanted to share or can share?
So one of the latest one, this is a Yuliia company. They enable e-commerces with chatbots that enable the sales, lead generation, things of that nature. This is our dearest client, and majority of cases for them was that we helped them to surface anomalies they didn't know. Literally, there are so much things going on in clients' cloud that they don't aware about. And
Right.
this was a moment of epiphany for them, because in 24 hours after the implementation Masthead, we surfaced anomaly that was connected of not delivering data to their client. And it was, it was pretty much huge for them. And after that, they implemented that more than on just Google Cloud project. They scaled it, and they understood how the data is flowing. So they understood what anomalies and problems they have within the teams and what should be fixed, prioritized, to ensure better, to ensure their, let's say, data environment is being scalable and reliable in a sense. So this is one of the, let's say, biggest gains so far for us, working with them and helping them to achieve this.
I mean, being able to provide that kind of insight after just 24 hours, did they think the product was wrong?
No,
Okay.
they saw, it was nothing to do with the product, because we pick up the errors. It was self-descriptive. Folks, you have this error. And after short investigation, they saw it's real, and they were like, oh, wow.
This is probably you hear a lot about data observability today, that's the current buzzword. I have to say, this is probably one of the closest implementations of data observability in a large in a large environment, frankly, right? It's not just data quality, but it is, I'm not delivering data to my partners. That's an observability solution. That's not just data quality. That's insight over the entire environment. I'm not trying to change your marketing on this podcast, but this is kind of delivering on the promise of what data observability is supposed to be.
I guess so, because I should say the data observability is a little bit abused based on my feelings so far. It's a little bit abused. Yeah.
Marketers are going to market, right? They're going to.
Oh, I can tell a lot about that. But also, there are lots of promise on the market, and I'm having hard time sometimes to explain what is good and what is, how the thing's supposed to work. But yeah, thank you for highlighting that. The other thing I want to mention is specific about Masthead, is that parsing logs and metadata is free of charge for our users. So using Masthead doesn't create any associated cost for clients' cloud billing, since we don't query the data.
So it doesn't. So you don't query the data. And the other thing that I was thinking about is, since you don't have to access the data itself, it makes it a lot easier for companies to start to use, because now it's not, you're not answering all of these sticky governance issues and data privacy issues.
Exactly. So we are compliant with all data privacy acts out there. This is one of my, easy to understand pitch, since we don't touch your data. And we are able to serve to the most sensitive buyers, like healthcare and fintechs. And this is what actually happens, because we have this healthcare company using us. And literally the conversation was like this. When I pitched the solutions, showed the demo to data engineer, and she was like, Yuliia, please tell me you are HIPAA compliant. And I was like, yes, of course. We don't need, we don't touch your data. We are. And she was like, okay, we are implementing you. Next call on our production database. This is literally what's happening, because data engineers understand that architecture approach to compliance is much more safer than compliance on illegal documents.
Right. Agreed. This has been a great conversation. So you mentioned you're available today in GCP.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned there's no cost for clients because you're not querying their data or anything like that. Is there anything you can share today about pricing? Is it per user? Is it by month? How does that work?
So we don't have any limits on users. We bill our clients based on number of tables, and views and external tables they have within their data warehouse. So This is pretty much transparent.
Got it. And if people want to know more about Masthead or about you, where can they learn more?
So first of all, just Google Masthead Data. Yeah. Oh, you can just visit. Yeah. You just can visit the website and, implement the solution. It literally takes 2 clicks and you're up and running. You're all ready. The only downside, you should have the admin rights to Google Cloud Project where you want to implement it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Yuliia Tkachova. I guess we can leave that link underneath.
We'll put it in the notes.
Yeah. So it's going to be more helpful. And yes, so this is pretty much it. You can reach out to me whatever channel is comfortable for you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. You have a good day. Bye.
You too.